Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTRs shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine, and today we have Aaron Stock with us. He's a DTR. He has a bachelor's in culinary nutrition and a bachelor's in food service management. So really cool background there. He is currently working at Project Angel Heart. And so he has a focus in community and public health. And I know recently we had some people reach out asking to hear more about DTRs working in this field, community nutrition. And Aaron was recommended by Brian, another interview we did recently. And he agreed to sit and talk with us on a Saturday morning. So props to him. So let us meet Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So again, thank you for Saturday morning talking with us. How did you find out about the NDTR credential?
So I found out about the NDTR credential through my school at Johnson & Wales, particularly through our faculty head, Marlene Swanson. And she highly recommended it actually, which was kind of a offshoot because a lot of my classmates at the time weren't actually that interested in the NDTR credential. So.
Yeah, that is so interesting. Usually it's like, I've never heard of the NDTR credential. So was that your professor who recommended it?
Yes, she was our
What
professor
was she
and head.
saying? What was her why was such a strong recommendation for the credential? I'm just curious.
Well, one of the arguments for it was that not a lot of people have it or are aware of it, and it would kind of make you stand out on your resume and just kind of make you more marketable. And it kind of shows that you would go the extra mile to kind of get that certification where a lot of people are not. So
yeah, that makes sense. It's a smart professor you had. So what was the process like for you post-grad and studying for it and taking the exam?
So post-grad, it was really just me talking with Marlene, and she was able to set that up, get the test there and studying for it. I had a little bit of trouble tracking down study materials for it, but I feel as I lucked out because I did have all my textbooks for food service management as well as culinary nutrition. So I was well rounded already with learning on how to costing recipes out and kind of the more financial and I would guess maybe businessy sides of the exam, as well as the sciences and nutrition part of it. So it was really just kind of finding a few things online via Kindle on the study guides, and then just kind of pairing that with the textbooks that I already had. So
That's good. Very like resourceful, just finding things. So your bachelor's degree is really interesting. A lot of people usually just have nutrition, but you have the culinary and food service. So what made you decide to go into that area or study that area specifically in undergrad?
So that was kind of it was kind of like, how do I put this? So I originally went to Johnson Wales with the idea of wanting to be a chef, and I was very in love with the idea of like cooking and owning my own restaurant. But then when I got more into the coursework and working into the industry, I realized that that avenue really wasn't for me. However, I did get into a culinary nutrition class, and that kind of changed my worldview a bit and my perspective. And I fell in love with the science of nutrition. I've always been a big fan of, different sciences and kind of geeky that way. So it really caught my interest, and then I pursued it and ended up double majoring. And long story short, here I am.
Yeah. So you mentioned the science of nutrition, and that's really cool that you did. But usually, or at least for me, when I think of science of nutrition, I think more clinical. But you have found your spot in community nutrition. So how did you land that job? And is there still a scientific aspect to what you're doing now?
There is. So little blurb. Before I worked at Project Angel Heart, I was working as a DTR at the Acute Center for Eating Disorders here in Denver, Colorado. I worked there for about 2 years in a clinical setting, and then I managed to find an opening at Project Angel Heart. Now, I'd already worked at Project Angel Heart as a cook while going through school and was an intern there for a brief time, but they had an opening for a DTR. And what really excites me about my current job now at Angel Heart is that we are we follow the food as medicine kind of philosophy, to where we have very science-based and proven methods for our clients. And part of my job there is I actually call our clients and I help offer nutrition counseling as I can. And all of our clients are living with life-threatening illnesses. So I'm able to kind of combine my two passions of community and public nutrition, as well as more clinical side in this job. So I'm really excited about it.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like the perfect mix. Okay, so we have to backtrack. I kind of jumped ahead a little
Sorry.
too quickly. How is that finding the job in the acute setting, and what did that job look like for you?
Oh, one more time, I'm sorry.
So when you found your job in the acute setting, how did you locate that job or apply for that job? What was that process like? We'll start there.
Oh, so getting the job at the Acute Center of Eating Disorders.
Yes.
So that one was, I actually originally applied to work at Denver Health in the food service and nutrition department there. So at that time, I was just kind of running trays and taking calls, and there happened to be an opening coming up in the acute center, which I worked very hard for, and I applied and managed to get in when they found out that my credentials and my background. So I was able to get in there and really was able to nurture my love for the more clinical and sciencey side of that kind of work.
So was the position specifically for a DTR?
It was.
Okay.
So it was kind of one of those parts where the stars aligned, mixed with a lot of hard work. And kind of one thing that I kind of live by is the harder you work, the luckier you get. So I was able to get into there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of people don't want to take that like food service or tray line position, but that position sounds like it led you to this really cool job working with eating disorders. So can you talk a little bit about what nutrition that you did for eating disorders, or what that was like in that job?
So with this specific job was mostly management of and monitoring of calories with the patients on my job there. I was one of 3 DTRs that worked there. And also I did have a culinary background. So the 3 of us were preparing meals for the clients on the floor as well, under the dietitian and doctor supervision. The client recommendations, I would guess we call them, like they were very specific eaters. So we would prepare their meals and we would calculate the amount of calories there and make sure that they were getting the exact as we could amount of calories and nutrients to each client or patient.
Wow, that sounds like a lot. How many patients? What was your patient load?
So when I first started there, our patient load was about 10 to 12. And then when I left, we were getting close to about 24.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So it was quite a bit of work, but it was worth it.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. So are you like super good at like meal planning now and figuring out like good foods for certain people? Because that sounds like you're really focusing on like calories and nutrients, and that's something we learn, but it's not something that we like become experts in unless you're doing something as specific as working with eating disorders.
Now, I wouldn't say I'm as much of an expert with that, but I have gotten a lot of experience with it, and it's something that I'm very familiar with. And I'm actively working towards, just improving myself in that all areas really, and that one specifically. So it was very insightful.
Yeah.
In that world there. Yeah.
So humbling. Such a humble answer. Did you find any, was it tricky working with like the food that was provided for you and doing the macronutrients? Because sometimes in a hospital setting or an acute setting, there's limited food sources that you can use.
So there were some challenges. So the only challenges that were really brought up was when we had to substitute items for like when the suppliers would give us, or like when the food delivery companies would substitute different items that would require different calories and nutrients that we'd have to take into account. For example, there was a little bit of a debacle with almond butter versus peanut butter. And to most people, that doesn't sound like a huge difference, but when you're working with somebody with a severe eating disorder, that is all the difference in the world. And it can be very upsetting to get 2 different things, even something as different as like a different brand of almond butter, for example. So it was a lot of working with the dietitians and making sure that, getting the hold of the suppliers and that nutritional information label we kind of lived by that, making sure that we were able to adjust our measurements, make sure that they're getting the right calories that they needed. And that was a lot of attention to detail work there.
Yeah, I love that. That's like little things like that, almond butter and peanut butter. Most people would be like, that's not important. But to people in the field of nutrition, you're like, no, that is so relevant, especially for the population you're working with. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. All right. So let's switch over to another job you had. So what was the process in applying for that job and kind of landing onto your community position now at Project Angel
Oh,
Heart?
so going from Acute to Angel Heart here now.
Yeah.
So that position there was, so after working as a cook at Angel Heart, it was a company that I absolutely fell in love with, where they the people who work there are just absolutely amazing in all aspects. The amount of clients that we're able to serve, all living with life-threatening illnesses, and the majority of like the deliveries and the packaging of the meals is all volunteer driven. So it's a wonderful community of people coming together to help those in need, which is something that I truly fell in love with. And
So wait, I'm
finding out,
sorry. I do want to interrupt. You kind of are explaining it now, but can you specifically explain what Project Angel Heart
oh,
does?
yes,
Because that
I
might
would
be,
love
yeah.
to. Okay, so Project Angel Heart is a nonprofit organization based here in Denver, Colorado. It's been around for about 30 years now, and we specialize in providing meals to people living with life-threatening illnesses at no charge to them. So we're able to deliver right now 7 meals a week to our clients. All of our meals are kind of pre-packaged and frozen. And we also they're all medically tailored to our clients' specific diseases that they may be living with. So we have groups that are friendly for renal disease. We have groups specific for cardiac health. You name it, we have a different group for it. And we cook a ton of food each day, package it up, and make sure that our clients are getting not only food, but medically tailored nutrition.
Wow, that is amazing. I didn't know things like that were around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
And
now we have to go back to how you found the job and whole process there. Do you mind?
okay, yeah. So going from Acute to Angel Heart. So as
Yes.
I said, I've already worked at Angel Heart, but at this point, I would have been gone from Angel Heart about 5 years working at Acute, finishing my degrees, and I just kind of happened to find that they had an opening for a DTR, and I immediately wanted to go back because again, I loved the company and the community of the volunteers there, and all the employees were wonderful there. So getting in there and already having worked there kind of worked in my favor, and having the skills that I went got with my degrees and work experience, it just really made me a perfect fit. And I'm truly blessed to have been able to be back there. So,
Yeah,
and where I am today.
I love it. I love it. So, what is a normal day for you like at Project Heart? Like, what's when you get in to when you leave? What does that look like?
So pretty average day when I walk in. So there are a few days a week where I will be leading volunteer dish-up shifts. So on those days, I come in, I greet the volunteers, and I get all the food ready that our cooks have prepared. And I manage the volunteers and have them dish up our different food groups. So we'll usually start with our naked or our unspiced group that we have. So that is all our foods free of spice. And then we kind of go in making for like the renal group, cardiac group, and then our regular group coming through. So I manage them, attention to detail, making sure that no groups are getting cross-contaminated with. And then after that, I basically do a little bit of food log, and then the rest of my day is usually calling our clients. And the dietitian will flag clients that are kind of, I'm not necessarily high risk, but of importance to call, that maybe have low BMIs, and I call them and offer them counseling as I can within my scope of practice. Of course, I don't really ever go out to that. If I ever run into a question with that, I usually refer them to our dietitian, and that's about an average day for me.
Oh, yes. Okay. So with Project Angel Heart, how is it with COVID?
So COVID was very challenging, but fortunately was a challenge that we were able to overcome. So one of Angel Heart's primary methods of funding is a lot of it is donation based. And we were expecting a very lean year, but however, we were absolutely blown away by the outstanding community here in Denver coming to basically our aid so we can continue our mission. That was absolutely phenomenal. Another challenge was we really had to reduce the number of volunteers who were coming in to dish up our meals. So we were able to stay within the social distance guidelines. Everyone's wearing masks, temperature checks at the door, and making sure that the volunteers coming in were not in the high risk group, because we were trying to protect our volunteers as much as our clients, but we also had a mission to our clients. So it was a lot of all hands on deck with staff helping in a ton of different places to basically keep everything going and making sure that our clients receive the food. And we did an outstanding job in making sure that our clients did not miss a single delivery all of COVID. So
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, you guys must have worked so hard to achieve that.
mm-hmm.
So with Project Angel Heart, how do you find the people that you're going to provide the service to? What's the process for that?
So a lot of them are actually referred to us by their healthcare providers or family members that may have heard of us. We also do as much marketing as we can by partnering with local restaurants and trying to get what our mission is out there. And so the clients are able to be referred to us, but in order to start receiving meals from us, they do have to have a sign off by a healthcare provider verifying that they do have one of the many conditions we're able to serve. And once we're able to do that, they're on a short wait list and they'll be receiving meals as soon as all the paperwork gets approved. So that's usually about like a week or two process.
Wow, that's really fast.
We're able to, the clients are also able to pick their groups. Usually that one's done more of a doctor recommendation, but we can also have different things we call add-ons. So we're able to accommodate our clients to a degree where if they don't like a certain meal or type of meal that we're able to offer, we can kind of do a little bit to make sure that the client is receiving food that they will be wanting to eat and able to eat.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question with the food that you're providing. And this kind of, I'm going to pick out your expertise in culinary nutrition and what you're doing. How are you designing the meals to be like nutritionally dense? And then where are the resources? Where are you getting the food from for these people?
So to answer the where we get the food from, that is, we purchase all of the food using the donations and money that we're able to fundraise. So we actually have a yearly budget to buy that food so that we're able to get ingredients that are actually more, I would guess to say uniform, that are like easier to manage nutritionally speaking.
Got it.
Yep. And then, sorry, remind me the first part of the question there.
Yeah, what's the process to making sure these meals are nutrient dense and you can just choose one population and just kind of provide an example.
So I will start with our heart healthy diet that we have here. So all of our meals, it's kind of a balancing act using the wonderful nutrition processing program, ESHA. So we're able to take large food amounts and we're able to run it through the program and making sure that we're meeting our calories. So we're shooting anywhere between 450 to 500 calories per meal. And right now we're averaging about 400 milligrams of sodium per meal. So we're keeping it very low sodium. We're making sure we're not adding any added salts or added sugars. We're focusing mainly on cooking techniques as well as quality ingredients that are going into our food to add needed flavor. And a majority of our dishes that we make are very simple. So we have chicken stews, beef stews, pork stews. We do fish fillets. We've just introduced right now vegetarian meal options. So those are kind of like vegetarian stews. One that we've recently dished up is a vegetarian gumbo that we have with okra. And so it's a lot of easy dishes and different types of groups. We reflavor them and have different flavor profiles to kind of add inclusivity, but we're also making sure that the new nutrients aren't really, that we're not sending someone a ton of salt. So it's not really like a restaurant food meal that you would get. We pay attention to the amount of salt, amount of saturated fats, carbohydrates and calories there. So.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of sciencey stuff there. So that's cool. A lot of attention to detail too. So with cooking and whenever you're feeding people food, especially in food service, food allergies come up. So how is Project Heart tackling food allergies in their patient populations that they serve?
So we actually have our own group for that, for the most common allergies. So we tend to avoid all those allergies. So we don't put any soy. That one is also dairy free. So it's kind of an all-encompassing group that we're able to serve there. So that is like its own section. Avoid all the major allergies. If there's a special allergy, we do our best to put them on a group, but for the most part, we are somewhat limited with the more unique allergies out there. But all of our foods are labeled for potential allergens on the meal tray. So that way, when the client gets it, if they'll see something, so it may say contains dairy, contains mushrooms, contains sesame or soy, they're able to be aware of that.
Wow,
So,
that sounds like a lot of attention to detail. So you don't like cause anyone some serious damage there. So with everything you're doing in this job, what are you doing for continual education for to keep up your DTR credential?
so for continuing education, well, in the past, while at the hospital, I was able to get onto a few seminars that they had in the hospital, kind of go over different nutrition topics or how client or patient care and bedside manner. I was able to use those. Now, thanks to the wonderful dietitian at Angel Heart, I've been access this past year access to Fancy and just kind of going over there and doing digital seminars and reviewing videos. And I'm really just trying to grab everything I can. Me personally, so like I love the community aspect of it. I love sciences, but I also like learning just odd and end things. So I'm always out there trying to grab whatever I can. So I kind of have an undying love of learning.
That's very important in DTRs to have that passion to learn. So going back a little bit to the patient population, you're mentioning when you're talking about the flavors that you're doing, trying to make it inclusive and having different flavors. So what has been your experience just kind of working with that and diversity and addressing cultural like issues with your job at Project Heart or just your general job as a DTR, jobs as a DTR?
So like the cultural issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we are with our cooks and chefs at Angel Heart are very creative in what they do, and they are always willing to explore different flavor profiles. And we also are aware that we do serve a very diverse group of in our clients. So we are trying to acknowledge the diversity in there through food because there is a lot of cultural significance through food, as anyone in this field will tell you. So we do try to include things everywhere from we have a Nigerian chicken stew, which is very popular with our clients. We have everything from a kind of a Thai-based beef curry stew. We even had a indigenous First Nations Blackfoot stew. Was actually adapted from a recipe from the Blackfoot tribe that we were able to adapt into a flavor profile for our clients. So we're really just trying to, just pay our respects and get a variety of food to our clients and kind of maybe open the doors to someone who may not be trying something new and just kind of, saying that there's more out there than meat and potatoes.
Yeah, which is good because then yeah, that's awesome that you guys, they're chefs and cooks, you're really thinking about that and implementing that in what you're doing. So as a DTR, has there been anything that has been a little bit frustrating or challenging or annoying about holding the credential in your experience?
So the one thing that I would say would be frustrating, is at least here in Denver, is that there are very few places that seem to be aware of what a DTR actually is.
Mm.
And we kind of get lumped into the category of diet tech. So if you're out job hunting, and this has been my personal experience, that a lot of the DTR diet tech positions that you may be coming across aren't really DTR positions. So they may be, I saw a few places here offering, basically it was a mill runner. So like in a hospital setting to where you'd be delivering meals to patients' room, but they were being called diet techs. So I think there's a bit of disconnect to what we do and what the credential we hold and what our skill set is to the population at large.
Mm, yeah, that's a very common frustration in this field. So kind of going off of that, have you felt Have you ever thought about pursuing the dietitian credential, or are you feeling very confident and comfortable as a DTR?
So I am looking forward to pursuing a dietitian credential. And part of me is I'm just kind of figure out and working many different places in as a DTR in the nutrition field, so that way I can find really what I want to specialize in. As I said, I've kind of I do love the sciences and community aspects of it, but there's also a ton of different things that catch my interest. So I've worked or I've interned at school districts before. I've done the clinical work, community, and just trying to figure out basically really what I want to be when I grow up,
Is
So,
that question ever answered?
yep. So,
Yeah. Well, it sounds
but
like you have, so go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was to say, the plan is I'm definitely going to be pursuing an RD certification in the near future, but just trying to see what's out there.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like the jobs that you've had sound so interesting, and you're really making an impact. So it's really cool to hear your story. Is there anything you want to, sorry, my camera does that. Is there anything you want to add or leave with our NDTR audience?
Let's see, add and lead with that. I would just say that you kind of have to be persistent with it. So the way I was able to get the job at Acute was I kind of bit the bullet a little bit, and I went into a job that I knew that had potential to lead to better things. So just kind of, finding those spots where, you just kind of have to keep working at it and just seeing the new opportunities. And as I said earlier, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So really don't lose heart and just keep going at it and keep trying and go for it.
Yeah, that's such a good quote.
Mhm.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. And how can people get involved with Project Angel Heart or donate or?
Donate? Oh, well, I would love to leave you a link to our website. We have a ton of different fundraisers coming up, and there's also just a donate button there. So as I said, we're all mostly donation driven. We do have a few grants that we were able to partner with, but the majority of it is donor driven. And we have a fundraiser coming up called Dining Out for Life coming up pretty soon. So that's where we're able to partner with different restaurants in the Denver metro area that will actually be donating a portion of their profits for one day to us. So I will be leaving a link with you, and you're able to, if we could spread that around, we would greatly appreciate it. And our
Yeah,
clients would greatly appreciate it.
I will definitely spread that around. I will definitely spread that around. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aaron. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're interested in community, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview and it was informative for you. Make sure you check out Project Angel Heart. It's doing amazing things nutritionally for patients in the Denver area. And give this video a like and make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep watching our interviews. Have a great day.